I'm not baffling all of them to save a little bit on the poly count. Now we got something like this. Now we just need to go here and edit the edge flow for all of them. It's gonna make it a little bit more nice and rounded and even. See, that's nice and round now. I think that's enough segments. I think that's great. Do some quick UVs. Get one do now so we don't have to do it twice. Saving a little bit more on the poly count. And let's as fast as we can push it. So let's keep like this. Let me try collapsing this edge here. I think that works. So that's as low as we can push this one. Not sure why it's not letting me. Careful. Let's make them a little bit bigger. Let's check if the segments are still fine like this. So I think that's still rounded enough. So keep it like this. I'm just getting that symmetry back on these sides while keeping the unsymmetricalness here. Just trying to find like a nice curve here to flow into the rest of the model. Take a look now. Now it's not that nice looking. I think that makes it look a little bit nicer. So we now get more of a line that goes like this, which is all pointing towards the center. See if this one's symmetrical. I think it is, but we got some subdivisions, so it's hard to tell. I think that's good enough. Go ahead and start detailing these leather strips here. First, let's just apply this. We're gonna make them a little bit more square. Just like here. And again, we're just modeling inside Zbrush. We're not actually sculpting. The only parts where we really sculpt is when we're blocking things out and when we're detailing. Should actually holding it. Yeah, I'm just filling up that gap to make the retopology a little bit easy on me. So we can retopologize this together, and then we just have a hole there that I'll probably keep in. So it does add a nice little bit of detail, that hole there. Maybe I'll keep it like this even. Nah, I think we should fill that. Now let's do the same here. Let's make these nice and square. Watch that curve there, make it straight. Work your way through the subdivisions. That's square enough for me. I think that's good enough. This is gonna be our rough layer, just like we have here. Some polygons back. So we start filling this out. Let's get our colors back in here. That's all looking good. Got a little problem here with connection. So instead of breaking the symmetry, just gonna go in here and push this part up. It's just gonna be easier to retop if they're both symmetrical here. So again, you want to be thinking about the topology for the retop all the time already. Because right now you still have an ability to make the retop process easy on yourself. Once you're done with the high, you gotta work with what you have. Try to make the next step as easy as possible for yourself. I think this is a step that most beginners kinda skip. They just think about, I finish the high and then I worry about the low. You should be worried about the low the whole process. That way you're gonna make it really easy on yourself. See why do we have to helmet roots? So let's clean up our scene a little bit. We can put some stress. Some new goggles. Some helmet as well. So I think that's a little bit less distracting to look at without all this stuff. Actually, we're missing one thing. Check this one, helmet. Let's also mix the two helmet groups together. A little bit more evenly sized. I'm gonna break that symmetrical feel a little bit here. So making sure I don't have gaps here. If I have that, they're very minimal. I'm trying to avoid intersections as much as I can. I think that's looking good, it's a little bit too much. So let's make these parts good first, so we can do all the straps at the same time. I think this is already looking pretty good. Just want to have a little bit more of a pointy end here. And clean that it up a little bit. I think that's fine. Let's decide if we want to keep a gap here. Now I'm gonna keep that gap. Do like how much it adds. I think these can be a little bit more pressed together, so it's a little thinner. Just something like that. That looks fine. Let's apply. Let's do the same thing here, but we go to the ends. We make them more square. We want to fill that gap up there, so we just have a gap here. Be careful with the gap that we're creating here. So I don't want to have a gap here, so we can take this and we can push this up a bit. As you can see, now we're getting rid of that gap. That's gonna make it easy to retopologize. Now we just have this area, which will be challenging, but shouldn't be too much of a problem. Get line a little bit straight. I think the distance looks a little bit nice if we add a little bit more. So like that. If you're gonna put a gap, make it big enough so you can bake in between. Like if we do it like this, it's gonna be almost impossible. So give yourself a little bit of space to work with. So let's move to the thin layer of leather. Let's get rid of the thickness. Subdivisions. Just like that, we have a layered ladder. Let's try to make that a little bit bigger. And we gotta take care of those corners later. A little bit of an issue here. So I want to average it out so that transition isn't too harsh. See, this looks a little bit more normal now. Maybe we can play that off by putting like a little fold detail in here. Maybe one here. I think that works. Let's put some more. Keep the consistency. Now I'm just adding a bunch of them to already detail it a little bit more. So I'm already working on it anyway. You don't need to think too much about these folds, just get anything in to get a little bit of detail. You can see the big difference that makes. This looks very unpolished. Then by just putting a few folds in there, you can see the way it looks way more polished now. You can extend the fold as well over multiple panels. It's gonna make it look a little bit more coherent. But you don't want to do that everywhere because then it starts looking weird, in my opinion. Let's make sure that we have some folds going on here as well. Of course, add some tension folds. So anywhere those straps goes, there should be like lines going towards it. Like that. Make sure to hold Alt as well, to also remove depth instead of just adding height. If we only add height, we're gonna get this effect, which looks very fake. So we do want to hold down Alt, so we get a wave-like effect, which looks way more natural. And there's not really anything that goes into these folds. I'm just putting them to add a bit of tension and detail. I think that looks alright. Let's do the same here. Get the double stuff going on. Duplicate. Add the polish. Get more close. Then the last one. I'm doing all these pieces at the same time to make sure we do it exactly the same, so we keep a more consistent look to our ladder. And it's less annoying to just do it all together, in my opinion. Because this is a pretty repetitive step. It's gonna be quite boring. And just like that. Let's check the thickness. It's too thick. Gonna put the offset at 0. It's gonna be good. And make quick save. See what save are we on. So we're getting quite high. At this point I want to merge this all together. One thing to make sure is that you have the same subdivision on all of them. That should be the case. So we do. Not much. So I'm merging everything down, so we only have to do this next step once instead of 3 times. Just creating a layer. Let's wash it out a little bit. Doing some weird stuff here. Not sure why. That's okay, I'm not gonna see it in the bake. Let's do a inflate to make it more rounded. That's my thingy. Doing some weird stuff. Let me see what's happening here. Not sure what happened there. Like this should be fine. Let's move this in place better. And keep the symmetry here. Go ahead and bake all. Let's add some noise. You see how this is making it look nice and rough. Let's also add a smaller noise on top. You can also just do this here in Painter, but I like to have the actual detail already here in Zbrush a little bit, so the sculpt looks nicer. This of course is a little bit more destructive, but you're not really gonna see too much of the noise anyway in the bake, so I don't really care about it. Let's also go ahead and just put all these together. It's all the same stuff, right? Let's apply that thickness. Just like that layer first. Now let's make sure we make it nice and square again. You can see I don't have too much poly count here because we don't need it. As any fine and that detail will just be lost as it's noise in the bake. This is gonna keep our ZTL a little bit lighter and easier to work with, which is nice. I think that sounds fine. Not sure what's happening here. It seems we have two. Let's check out what that's about. Exactly the same. I think we duplicated on accident, so we can delete one. Let's also move this stuff back. To make sure we can symmetry actually. I'm gonna go back a little bit. It's looking good. See that we have a little bit of distance. As you can see, we have 5 subdivisions and 5 on the other one. So we can just merge down. We'll keep the subdivisions. Now we can move everything together. And to move one, we can use the move topology brush. Let's try to make this point a little bit sharper. We also need a little bit of leather there, so we're going to duplicate. Copy group. And delete it. Get rid of all that. Delete it. So just push that out. Oh, that looks nice and clean. A little bit more thickness. I think that looks fine. So let's duplicate. Delete the subdivision so we can use an insert brush to do the stitches. Gotta push them a little bit more in. This just the same stitch brush that we used earlier. I think that works. Maybe a little bit bigger. You don't need to draw these stitches out perfectly, we can edit them later. Just want to get something in there quickly. Of course, do try to keep it kinda nice and clean. Now, for example, we can move them around. Make sure you remember your brush size. It's -6. So let's go back to that. Make sure you're using the same size brush. We can do a little bit of variation between the upper one and the low one, but maybe adding an extra stitch line. One thing I like about using a brush like this, where it's all connected, that if we now do an auto groups, that we get like the different stitch lines, they become a little bit more easy to edit. So now we can just use topology. Then we just added one stitch line. push that in. You can see how easy it is to make this. I think they need a little bit more height. Can go to move. With a big one we can just move that all out. Get rid of this stuff. See how that's adding quite some nice details. Now we have to do the same for here, and yeah. But this symmetrical. And we have this piece. Start with the symmetrical one. This is going to be the fastest one. Make a little bit more space for an extra stitch line. You can just mask this. Then we can move that patch down. Do something like this. Thing that you can do. You can get the transpose and then control click and just drag it. That way you can get a duplicate. rid of this. Duplicate. Let's mirror and delete. So just 2 more. Let's clean this one up. Control track. Get a duplicate. That looks great. I'm gonna be a little bit lazy over here. Let's go ahead and make this a little bit more square first. I think I've got it. Thing what you can do is you don't have to do perfectly this layer. You can kind of move this up and let's say some standard brush here. That's gonna make it look like it has some natural like tearing. Like the glue layer is letting off, which can add quite some nice detailing. But usually I do this part a little bit later. So you can see how that adds some interesting stuff. We can also do it, let's say, in the corner. We do this. The corner is kind of letting go. You can see how detailed that starts to look. Or we can just take it standard and just kind of go like this. It's first a mask. You can just kind of do that to add some damage here and there, where you'd like. I think something like that looks nice. So I'm gonna take this, duplicate, mirror, and delete hidden. And with a big move brush we can move this. And finally some transpose. So this can save a little bit of time, so we don't need to do every single patch. We can reuse already made ones. This is looking pretty empty right now. So the way we can fill this up is by adding some holes. Just doing some really quick ones to see how that fills up the emptiness. We'll do this more proper. I think that looks quite nice. So let's go ahead and separate these pieces again. So we're gonna need to subdivide them more, except for the down part, that's fine. So we can take these and split. I should go to the lowest subdivision. For this one, let's add a few subdivisions. So I think that's more than enough. And bring this a little bit closer to the edge. edge here as well. So we're gonna be lazy, just duplicate. Actually, it's gonna be too small. Redo. So that's asymmetrical, which is great. Just gonna flatten this out a little bit more. Look at that lighting. I want that line to be on the same level, more or less. Now we can add some stitching again. So duplicate, geometry, delete. So let's move this a little bit closer. Seems like we have a lot of double stuff going on. I think I duplicated the folder accidentally one time. So we should eventually get rid of all the duplicates. Let's check. Yep. Just gonna delete. Let's check this one. It's not a duplicate. Another duplicate. Oh, that's actually the one that we just made for the stitches, never mind. So back to 6. Single stitch. Maybe we'll do another double stitch here. Just mirror and weld to make sure that it's the same. Let's go ahead and clean this up. I think that's starting to look really nice. So I'm just moving it down, holding shift, move down, shift, move down, so we can merge them down easily. Get rid of the thickness. I just like to have all my stitches on one subtool. I think we can add a little bit more damage to this edge here. You can see how sloppy I am with like sculpting. It really doesn't matter what you put in, as long as you just get some form of damage. You can see once you see it from a distance, you don't really see it, but it's just important to add a little bit of breakup. Okay, I'm just gonna bake all, keep the file nice and small. I think that's looking good. Maybe it's a little bit too thick. And I really like this new feature, by the way, of Zbrush, the visible groups. I think it's a really good feature. So I'm just kind of spinning around and seeing where I want to pay attention to next. I think we're on a pretty good point. Next step's gonna be the little holes. So the way I'm gonna do this to make sure they're all evenly distributed, I'm just gonna export this. Import. Let's get rid of the other stuff. Just gonna select all these points. Chamfer. Let's do it in Zbrush. Let's export. Scroll up. Let's add some thickness. I don't think that's gonna work as I wanted to. Yeah, it's not how I wanted it to be. So we're just gonna sculpt it in. Let's make a layer. I'm gonna use them as guides though. Let's go with 3 maybe. Just on every other cross, I'm gonna put like a little ball. It's getting kind of stretched. Now obviously we should have one here. I think this one is not needed. Get rid of that one. That one. I'm not liking the way that one looks. So something like that, maybe one more. I think that looks nice. So I'm gonna add one more. I think that looks better. I'm just gonna deflate it. Then let's grow the mask. Let's do a quick polish by features. Maybe one polish. Not liking how that came out. Maybe just a polish. I think that looks a little bit more clean. Can shape those a little bit more now. See how much detail that adds. Now in the extra low poly we're not gonna have a hole, of course. Just gonna go ahead and get the color. Everything that has this color will have like a black albedo in the textures. Just gonna make it look like a hole without actually having to put a hole in the low. So that's gonna keep the topology a lot more simple, and it's gonna be less heavy on the poly count. Just go ahead and put some black color in there actually, so we can kind of preview how that looks like. that we created here. You can see how that looks. Looks fine. I think it's a little bit too black though, to my liking. So that's a nice little preview. Start working a little bit with this rope thing, as it's already quickly by now. Push this in a little bit. See, we don't have subdivisions. So we can insert. Okay, root split. Good damage. You can see that we can model stuff pretty sloppy, but smaller details like this, it doesn't really matter how it looks like. Just matter that you have something in there. And let's add some variation and thickness. Let's do a Z-remesh. Don't like to work with Dynamesh in final topology yet for anything, because here we can just subdivide a lot cleaner. So let's round out everything first. Now we can make some variation. This that little thing that we were making. We gotta start doing this part. This one's gonna be a lot more difficult to make. As you can see, it's quite a challenging thing. So it's definitely gonna be a Maya job. So we're gonna have this. Let's get a rope. This one leads to it. Then we should have like stuff twisting around it. I think the easiest way to do this is to create a cube. Like always, I love starting out with cubes for anything I do. Get an edge here. Let's convert. Now we make a curve from that. It's the wrong button. Let's see, I'm a little confused why this looks so thick. Does that make sense? Then the rope should be... Get rid of this. Rope should end like this and then should tie around it. Just support edge here. Something like this. Then we're gonna fake this effect. A lot of times when you have stuff like this, we just fake it in 3D, as it will be super hard to make. Something like that. Now, instead of making it actually twist around properly, you can just duplicate this like 2 times. So another one here. See how much do we have to cover. So I think we can space them out a little better. Start with the top one. Then let's get a bottom one. Should be even spacing more or less. Okay, just take all these duplication and fill up that space. We can do an FFD. And we can change that shape up a little bit better to match. This under deform lattice. I think it's called FD in Max. I'm still stuck with that from years ago. It's not getting out my head. So that's looking good. Let's do edit, delete all by type history. Edit, delete all by type history. Let's try another FFD. Maybe we can twist this time. See how this is becoming more chaotic. Which is good, that's something that we need. Maybe it's a little bit too random. Just kinda trying stuff as I go along. I think this will work. Now we can do another one. This time we're gonna add a little bit more points. It's too much. Get a few more in this one. Maybe some soft select. Trying to get this as good as I can. I gotta start bending some of that. I think that's starting to look pretty nice. Again, not really have an idea what I'm doing, just winging it. Now let's go to curve rebuild. Just want to get points there a little bit more controllable. I can fix some errors here and there. It's okay, we don't need to fix all. It's good that some go in early actually. So maybe something like this. Now let's group that. Do a duplicate and scale -X. Move this up. Maybe scale down. Just gonna duplicate a few here and there. This one's important, that actually goes all the way around. These duplicates are kind of meant to break it up, that's what I'm trying. And over here we should clean it up a little bit. Should end a little more tight. Let's take a look, I think this could work, maybe. So I need to adjust this, but we'll do it in Zbrush. I'm gonna make it a little bit longer though, so that's easy in Maya. Actually, let's just move them in place. So there will be something more like this. Now let's see what we're gonna get from these curves. Make a quick save, just to be safe. Let's see, create sweet ash. So poly, that's fine, 8. Change the scale and change it to start to end. Up the steps a bit. Let's see. I think the ID works, but the execution was a little bit sloppy. Maybe we just need to try this with more curves. So before I put in work making new curves, I just want to see if we can fix by adding more. Go ahead and add these to a layer. So we can lock them, so we can just select curves only. Yeah, I think this works a little bit better with more. I think there's a little bit too much of random shapes going on. So let's try that one again, but in a more controlled way. Want it to flow a little bit more normal. So I'm just gonna create a cube. Okay. Get rid of these. Alright, so we should go to front. I know how we're gonna do this. Let's put the rotation back to 0. Translate. Let's put that at 0. So now we're gonna decide how many twistings we want. So I can count like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's say 24. This doesn't need to be perfect. Just something more or less. Maybe it's a bit much. Maybe 22. It's now a lattice. Change this to 2. Now we can start rotating this. That's not working. Okay, stop. 21 seconds left. Lattice. Maybe 6. Yeah, that's how I thought it would work. Something like this. Let's move it out. Into history. Let's place it here. Lattice. I think you can see the idea we're trying to hook that shape again. It's also work a little bit with soft select. So this one should have a little bit more noise, but I got a plan for that. So let's try this. Actually, I think we can just take these, maybe. I think this might work. We take these now. Can do them one by one, which is annoying. Look at this. Like a little weird looking. I think we have to convert this first. That's better. Let's go back a little bit. I want to make these spirals a little longer. Modeling stuff like this is going to be a little hard, right? Gotta kind of mess with different techniques and see which one is going to work the best. This one that I generally like to use a lot, starting with a cube and then twisting it and getting curves off it. It works quite well for a lot of cases. Go on, substitution down. Some better results here. So let's try this. I'm already starting to doubt it. I think these work fine. Let's go ahead and clean the noise up a little bit. So curve, rebuild, and make them a little bit more clean. It's not looking too bad, I think. It's pretty clean, but still there's a lot going on, which we wanted. Just gonna add an extra point so we can grab it over here. Then we can push it out. So it goes all the way around. I think over here works fine. It's also what I want you to take away from this course. When you're doing more challenging things, don't get frustrated if the first thing you try didn't turn out right. Just redo it and redo it until it looks fine. Because stuff like this can be pretty challenging. Make it here. And fill it, space up. I think this one should have a -1 so we can get a cross thing happening. So early we can duplicate one to bring some breakup. We do gotta make sure it ends properly. Should come into each other. And rebuild. It's unholdable. It shows happiness. It's not rebuilt. We can push the geometry later a bit. Let's give this one a try. First, to see if we're actually getting something usable. Actually, this pushes down really quick. I think this should give something usable. There's a little bit of a lot going on here. So let's give this a try. This is looking very bad. It's not taking all curves, I think. That's looking more proper with start to end. I don't think that looks too bad. A few problems here and there that we need to fix. And add the sweep meshes to a layer. Put that on reference to lock it. Now we can just only select the curves. I think if you really want to get the best results, probably best to Is it too messy? I think it's too messy. still. Let me just try to get in Zbrush to see how it looks. I think we might have to do one more time and model it a little bit more like traditionally by hand. I feel like this giving a better result though. I think that's the way we're gonna do this. Let's just focus on this one smaller part. I think this is already looking pretty good now. We can get rid of one. Nope. I think there's a lot of noise at the bottom. We're gonna fix that in Zbrush by hand. Let's get one lattice in here. I think this is one of the most challenging things I've modeled in a while. It's fun. Don't really care how it looks from the back too much. So we finally got the front looking good. Let's export. Get this in Zbrush. And remember, this is gonna be pretty small, so it doesn't need to be perfect, but still like to get it pretty good. I think it's maybe a little bit too small now. Start messing with it here. Do a layer and inflate. Just a little bit, bake all. I think that looks alright. Now with the move tool, the move topology, you can kind of start making that. Let's hide this one for now. It's annoying me. Now I think that looks pretty well from a distance. It's reading well. If we get close, it's a little bit too thick in my opinion, but doing that on purpose so it reads better from the distance, which I do prioritize. Just try to look for something that looks nice at this point. Try to hide all those ends. I do like this one, which really like breaks it up. It's overlapping a lot. I think this one can be a little bit more proper. I think we're gonna have to add like one little tube here later. But it's looking good in my opinion. Actually, that's not sticking out that much. So now let's do an array. An array mesh duplicates your mesh a few times and you get some options to play with. So array mesh transpose. Now we move this to the end. It's too high. Maar dit is natuurlijk maakt het toe. Repeat. Dat ook man. Is that rotating this a little bit? Just trying to get a little bit less repetitive feeling. Rotating it. I think we we should get rid of the array mesh just to duplicate. What's happening? I had a mask. Now let's mirror it. Is this gonna make it look a little bit less repetitive? I'll move this in a little bit. I think like that works well. Just gonna push this in. Take a look. I think that looks nice. Let's go ahead and duplicate this one. Just gonna use move this time. Get rid of that mask. Again, you can use the move if you use like a very big brush size. It's gonna keep everything nice and clean. Yeah, and I think that looks nice. Think about the low poly, so make everything kinda even. That looks pretty. Make the shape a little bit more clean. Let's get a rope back. And we did edit this in Maya. You can select it because the layer, don't forget that. Don't like the color actually, it should be more like this. Maybe a little bit of a different tint. That works well. Let's get the detail from here. So surface edit, copy and paste. Do we have UVs? We do. I don't know, I feel like we don't have UVs. Put some 3D. Let's make some UVs. See plugin, let's do a save as well. Put some more stitches in here. It doesn't really look like the reference has any. I'd like to just add a little bit more detail there. So something like that looks fine. I'll probably make this into a double stitch. maybe the single stitch is better. I think the double's a bit too much. Just gonna be lazy and put this in so we don't see it anymore. And let's mirror. Again, you don't need to make the stitch perfect, you can have it a little messy, that's okay. It's just gonna add a little bit more breakup. So I'm gonna make sure we don't have intersecting stitches. I think we should go ahead and start sculpting the mask a little bit. So I'm gonna break the symmetry. It's also actually subdivided at this point. See how many points we have. Maybe something like this. These are gonna be really simple strokes. All I need is some bumpiness. Could also do like a little line here in the middle. This one I'm gonna make a layer. Just do a morph target. I'm just holding shift to make a straight line here. We can increase the strength here. So I'm looking for the highest point of that line. So now with our morph brush, we can start dialing some parts down again. So I get a lot of control of what we're actually doing. And we can still control it later. Then just bake it once we're happy. You can see how much detail just that simple line is adding there. And do the same for the bottom. It's just gonna be a nice little detail to add. It's gonna make it look more visually interesting. As you can see, this looks a lot more interesting than all that emptiness. Take a closer look. I think we can add like a thingy here. Actually, we need one more subdivision, I think. It's a little bit better. This doesn't need to be a really perfect line. Keep this somewhat messy. Actually, let's make it a little bit cleaner by using the lazy radius. Try to keep the same distance from the border everywhere. Then we can clean these areas up where it's like a little messy just by going over it a little bit. Trying to blend it a little bit better. Then brush. Smooth. And this is one of my favorite brushes. Smooth directional. It's gonna work like magic. I would just follow that direction while smoothing it. It's gonna make it look way nicer. As you can see, we have this thingy here. The thingy pretty much disappears. I feel like we should add some roundness to it. Again, I'm working on layers, so we can really control this later on. You can see how messy and fast I'm being with this. Because if anything looks imperfect, it's just gonna make it look a little bit more natural, which is great. And see a lot of waviness. That's gonna be the next thing that I want to put in. looks pretty nice. I think we can bake that down. That's fine. Gonna hide this one for now. So now let's bring that waviness to it. Anywhere where it looks too perfect, I'm just gonna move it out a bit. Then we can like kind of turn it over for that effect there. Now it's on the other side on the reference, but it doesn't matter. Just need to put it in somewhere. And I think that adds a lot of detail. I'm also gonna do it here, because I do really like that. Okay, it's getting a little bit too extreme. Trying to round that out again. I think that looks good. Let's see what else can we spot. So we can add like a little bit of like an indent here. First thing I would do is just kind of push this out, smooth that. It shows really well where we need to push it in. By doing this, you're really gonna start making it feel more believable, because there's actual force instead of it just laying on top. I think that works well. This line right here is definitely way too perfect. We need to stop breaking that up. Again, it's a really organic surface, so you want to avoid these perfect lines. Same for here, we can take this line, just kind of wobble it. Same here, as you can see this looks a bit unnatural. Just by adding a little bit of wobble, that's gonna make it look better. I'm gonna do a little bit more of that folding detail, and I want this roundness to be broken up more. If we take a look at the reference, here you can see it becomes really pointy and we have that fold. I really want to get rid of that round look. I think that looks great. Let's get something like that going. Should actually be more up. We don't need to match it exactly, just get some of the properties in there. And try to get a more extreme fold in there. So I do think this is the thing that really adds a lot of detail. Again, we use the transpose tool to make that fold happen. You want to be careful that doesn't look too messy. I really want to push that fold more, so I want to see a little bit of that back fabric that we're gonna put in. And that's gonna add some great breakup. Keep an eye that it doesn't look too messy. Let's see. So I feel like we could just add some roundness here. It's also gonna break it up a little bit more. And then one more roundness behind that. Get the smooth direction brush back again. Actually, let's get the smooth directional brush in our Zbrush, so we don't need to select it every time. So the way that should work is go to your folder, then go to Zbrushes, look for the smooth and directional, just gonna copy. Then see startup, brush presets. I think if you paste it in here, it should load every time. to add a little bit more breakup to these things. It's gonna be really minor breakups, just like that. Just by adding these little imperfections, it's gonna push the leafableness of it. Don't overdo them like this, then it's gonna look weird. And I want to add a little bit of noise to get that rougher edge look to it. You could do this in texture, but I think it's easy if we do it here already a little bit. So we try to set up some better polygroups. I think we'll just do it by hand. I think we have Purrple Cat to do it. Yeah, it looks like we have. That looks right. We're also gonna need these polygroups for the texture phase to give ID maps, so that's alright. Just polygroup that like this. So that's looking well. And start making a layer at this point. Now we can take this, let's circle this. Let's add some noise. Not really liking that. And step aside. So I can go noise, edit, copy, so we can get it back. Let's match this. So that we have a bit of a gradient here. Get rid of the thing. Turn it off. And something like this, black. Make sure we have a mesh. So black. See, that looks nice and fuzzy. I think we should make the noise a little bit smaller. Not necessarily want to fuzz, I want to get more of a breakup effect. I think this will do a better job of having some breakup. Now let's polish. Also surface noise. And paste. You can take a look. I think that looks a little bit more like the reference, that we have some rough edges. Not much down. Let's merge with the smoothness. Now let's call this rough edge. Let's see what else can we do. We can put this in. I think this should be more like 0.7 maybe. At this point I'm all just working with noise turned on, because I want to get a good feel for how it looks, what I'm doing. Take a snake brush. I think it's too even, so let's go with the clay buildup and just go over that to add some noise. See that? It's more of a noise effect. Actually, I think we're doing this one wrong. It's like going in first. Let's make that go in. On both sides. Now working with reference to get some breakup and the symmetry. Now with a smaller brush, let's put it back. Go for it with some direction. And disable noise for a little bit so I can see what I'm doing better. I think we need one subdivision. Take this all. Yeah. No, we don't. To fill up this space, we can just go in with pinch. Kind of pinch this. Clean that up. And go over it again with the direction smooth. I know this doesn't look really pretty, but it doesn't really matter how it looks like, because as soon as we have all the noise on top, you're not really gonna see it. It's just like a little detail thingy. And we can add some more noise on top with like clay buildup.